Okay, well, welcome to today's live stream. Haven't done a live stream in a while, so I thought we would pull another one back up, see what's happening with it. If you have any specific things you're interested in seeing, we're going to be looking at a little bit of the M1 today, but of course we could cover just about anything. Whoa, just pulling up the chat on my phone so I can also see what's happening down there. Okay, cool. So, I thought I would just at first talk about some of the things I'm still struggling with the M1, the Silicon Mac. It is not ready yet for prime time. I've discovered it works really good in a lot of situations, but man, I've had some huge struggles with it. And I hope that the new Big Sur update coming really shortly here will fix some of those things. First and foremost, I can never let the computer go to sleep. And the reason for that is because if I let it go to sleep, any external hard drive I have with it disappears and I have to like unplug them and replug them back in. So I find myself using the computer, and then when I'm done for the moment that I'm using it, I just have to either shut it down or make it don't sleep, but just turn the screens off. All of that's a huge pain in the butt, but I'm hoping some new updates will fix some of those kind of glitches with it. Never really had that issue before, but it makes it keeps me on my toes, that's for sure. Some of the plugins are starting to work, and I'm not sure exactly what changed because before, I couldn't use any of the Waves stuff at all on the Silicon. It just wasn't even loading, or it wouldn't get past the scanning process at the beginning. But now I've been able to, let's see, I'll pull something up here. Now it's actually been working more, so that's good. I can pull in some of the effects and things. Let's see where that pops up. If it does, there it is. So, I mean, you'll see waves popping up, and I don't have any audio glitches with it or anything like that, which is kind of nice. It's been, I think that was something I was most excited to see start coming, but they still haven't qualified them to use with the Silicon Macs. They're just, Logic is just seeing them and they're working, but they're definitely probably going to be working smoother and loading up better as soon as they release an update for that. But like I said, for some reason, when I first did all of this, I hadn't done any updates to Big Sur at all, but I every once in a while I just try reinstalling them and they work. So that's good. Some of the instruments are working now. So for instance, I have the East West Play Composer Cloud, and as long as I keep everything at 48 kilohertz, then this seems to be working too. But certainly with the big libraries, sometimes they do glitch out. They're not really, again, qualified for Silicon or even Big Sur. And we have a lot of teasing coming from them about a new the Opus system from East West. And so I think that when that comes out, hopefully the delay that they've had in releasing that is because they're making it compatible. And so things are kind of working. I can still use instruments here. I did one big, huge orchestral section where I loaded up the biggest one of every instrument. And it's just, my drive ended up being what wasn't fast enough. The actual memory and all the other stuff was working just fine. So that's pretty good. Let's see. In terms of other things, I do have some other plugins and things which I use, but I try to keep most of my important stuff just in the Logic ecosystem with the default instruments and the default effects, because cases like this, when I want to go to a new Mac, then most things are going to work. But there are a few things that I have to go outside for. For instance, that would be the ambisonic stuff I do, the 360 audio. Most of that does not work. There's nothing in Logic to actually do some of those things. So I use the waves. Let's see, NX system. Right there in the middle. And this one's having a little problems too. Every once in a while it hangs up. And that's because it has this other app that it has to use. And right now with a live stream, it's a horrible time to actually pull this up, because if the camera tracker's on and I'm doing a live stream, then it could technically crash the whole thing. So if I disappear on this live stream, then you're welcome, everybody. Thank you, Waves. But it has been working, just not when I'm also doing the webcam for other things. So let's take that back off. It probably is just going to stick in the background now. But I have had some successful runs using that as well. It's been pretty cool. Now, in terms of, oh, there's a question. So here's one question that just came in about the M1 mode, the native or the Rosetta. So this is one thing that I found really interesting. I need to do a little bit more research about it. But if you come into your applications and find Logic, Command I that, you'll see the whole application I can open using Rosetta. And so I can actually switch between the native or the Rosetta mode, because this is a universal app. Any of the apps that are universal, it looks like you can do this with. And so I could have opened it under Rosetta, but right now this is running in the native mode. I'm actually going to be trying it out using the Rosetta, see if that changes the plugin working. But the Waves one, that other application, is not actually in Logic. It runs outside of Logic, so this wouldn't actually change that. It probably is still going to crash just as often. But you can see, let's see, I've got Model 15 here. And let's see what that says. It says it's universal as well, but I don't have an option to run it in the other mode. This is one of the iPad apps. So some of them show up, some of them don't. It's all kind of confusing still, but you can actually run Logic using Rosetta. I don't know yet how that's going to affect some of those plugins. But the ones I'm showing you right now are running in the non-Rosetta setting for Logic. The things that I do like so far. So Logic itself is incredibly snappy. It's like I can be recording something. I was recording some vocals and a MIDI part simultaneously, and it's like I open up the mixer and I open up plugins while I'm doing it, and it's like I'm zooming and changing windows and everything, and no matter what I'm doing, all of those things are so snappy. And that's probably not one of the things to care the most about, because I feel like just making something more snappy doesn't necessarily outweigh having to have everybody reprogram every single thing. But it's just really promising for what lies ahead with software like this. And I mean, we can come in just as an example. Let's not play something like that. Let's just grab the first group of files here, 85, drag them all out. And so create new tracks. It already did the new tracks, even though I hadn't selected it yet. So all of these things now, they're going to take a second to load up, but let's select it all, move it up to the front. And I'm going to pull down the output so we don't hear all that. That's not going to sound good. Just looped it all. But I mean, all of that stuff's playing. I can go through any of these things. They all pop up. Nothing takes a long time to like load up and make changes. I mean, it is super responsive no matter what I throw at it. So another question came about my audio interfaces, and I've used now one of the Focusrite little minis, and my other interfaces, let me show you. They're over on the wall here. They're the Steinberg UR22 Mark IIs. And they were all plug and play. They work better now than they did before, but they're all really simple devices. Although I have been aggregating them together. So I have like 3 different interfaces that I aggregate together, and it's been working flawlessly. So far, I do everything I teach on Zoom for the university, and so far I have to keep everything at 48 kilohertz. For Zoom, Zoom doesn't like anything less than 48, and or anything different than 48. So every once in a while, with all of these things, Big Sur has a hard time remembering settings. It's always forgetting what I'm choosing when I reboot it. And since I have to reboot it all the time because of the sleeping issue, that's been one of the bigger pains, is just making sure I go back into the audio MIDI setup and setting everything to 48. That way, everything stays at 48 when I'm using it. As long as I keep everything at 48, everything has been working flawlessly. Cracked Omni work. I had no idea about that. Worth testing out for somebody though. Okay, cool. So the responsiveness is amazing. And keep in mind that I'm not using the 16 gig version of this. I have I have too many computers. And when I wanted to go into the M1 and test it out, knowing that in a year, probably they're going to release a bigger workhorse, and that's where I wanted to invest my money. I got the cheapest of all of the M1s just to put it through its paces, and it's amazing. But this one is, there's my serial number. It's the 8 gig version, so it hasn't had any issues. Most of the time, people say that the 16 gigabyte memory version is for running multiple pro apps. So if you're doing the Adobe suite, Photoshop and Premiere and After Effects open simultaneously. But if you're just running one at a time, because of the new architecture, that even just the 8 is going to be significant for most people. So this is what my performance meter looks like. It has the 8 threads on it. And I've done other videos where I've pushed it all the way up to the top, but I've never in an actual project been able to push it up to the top. There's another question about the Rosetta, and I think that I really need to do some more testing with it, but because I haven't found too many people who are saying this is exactly what putting in a Rosetta mode does. There's probably some other videos out there, people writing about it, but for the most part, I've just kept it in the non-Rosetta mode because everything I need so far has been working. And putting something into Rosetta and like a brand new system and a brand new architecture and a brand new computer, that could be exciting. It could be super exciting. We could do it right now if we wanted to, but I think I'm going to pass just while we're doing a live stream at the exact same time, because you never know, like, unintended consequences of some of this stuff. It handles, Big Sur with the M1 handles webcams horribly. It's like I used to be able to do multiple webcams on things, and now if I open up 2 software applications that both have a webcam access, they both crash. And I mean, it's not even that they're using them, it's just that they might use them. it's insane how poor some of that type of, how poor that's working. But again, I'm using the previous version of OBS, which I doubt has been fully designed to work on the silicon yet. So that's one piece that's a big problem. Zoom, I think now is working on silicon okay. They've done some updates to do that, but there's a lot of pieces that happen when you do this. And so if you're doing anything outside of like the Apple software, this should be like a secondary computer, not your first one. Not for like at least a few more months. I mean, legitimately, it's insane how many things every day I kind of run into and think, okay, well, I guess I need to find a workaround for this. Or now if I want to do live streaming with my camera, I have to like load all of the individual pieces up in a certain order. And it's like I have to load up OBS with a fresh reboot. And then I use that it can focus and all this stuff. I have to load that one up second. And then it's like I have to hold this whole order of everything to do. It's a huge pain in the butt. So I think in a few months it'll be better. So some more comments. Yeah, I don't know about UAD. I've heard mixed things about if that's working well or not, but let's see. Someone else in a month ago. Okay. It increased the number of external plugins that did not crash. Well, they were saying, I've seen some other people that said even in Rosetta mode, things are more efficient than the equivalent Mac Mini that was before the M1. You get 5 or 6 alchemy, some drums, and a few more channels, but I'm so used to resampling. I mean, this is way more powerful than my 2015 Mac Mini that I was kind of using for some stuff before. I've got a MacBook Pro that I use for when I'm not like sitting with an audio interface and stuff. And this blows that out of the water, and that's only like 2 years old. Okay, some more comments there. Anyway, so a lot of interesting stuff with this. The actual Logic stuff, I've run into some bugs inside Logic that I haven't run into previously. Every time I load a new or old, saved or fresh project, the quick help always starts open. It's like I can never get that thing just to stay closed. So if I were to close this project with it closed, save, close, reopen, quick help would be open again. I think it's trying to make sure that we know that it's there to help us. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Other bugs I've run into, I actually haven't run into too many like straight up bugs that we didn't already experience in previous versions. Trying to think, there were a couple things I'm trying to think of. I mean, it's the same logic architecture. They didn't really change how processing threads work. So, I mean, we're still limited in some of those areas. Whenever we have an open record arm channel, that's going to take up a lot more in a single thread. Trying to think of other bugs that there was something that happened the other day that I wish I had written down. Because it certainly... Oh, well, no, that wasn't it. I can't remember. I'll think of it in a second. But there have been a couple like weird bugs that just require a restart. And if I restart Logic, then they'll go away. Oh, there was one when I was recording audio. That's what it was. I had the channel record armed, and it like switched to like the GarageBand style where if you're pushing play, it plays what's in the track, but if you stop, then you can hear the monitoring. But it wouldn't ever let me switch it out of that. So whenever I was like doing like a rehearsal take with the singer, I always had to have it in record mode, or had to be recordings for them to hear themselves. It's a weird bug. I think I've experienced it once or twice before this, but it seems more prominent right now. And so it's just a restart, and then it starts monitoring correctly again. Some small weird things like that, but um, certainly a pain in the butt when you're trying to get work done. Okay, more comments, but looks like conversation happening amongst yourselves, which is kind of cool. Um, okay, other things I don't know. One of my biggest questions that I need to look into more is about how they're handling actual samples that you want to load up a huge sample library. It sounds like almost everything is just going to be more read from disk, and so it's just going to pull the slightest bit into the memory, and then hopefully have enough time to go search for things. So a lot more things are going to be just read off the disk as fast as possible, which is both good and bad, because it means that they're going to rely on super fast drives, which hopefully will push drives to be more reliable, faster. But on the same time, a lot of the drives that we're using, the solid state stuff, has limited lifespan for read numbers, and so it's going to burn through those perhaps even faster. And so there's just going to be the one feature I think we need from Apple is the ability to get warnings when drives need to be replaced and be able to make them replaceable in our devices. Because I'd hate to have to like go through another computer in a year because it's been, reading nonstop from my drive on and off all day long every time it's being used. So there's that, but I do feel like right this moment, anyone who has one of these is in the Apple beta testing program, and they're going to learn a lot by what we run into, and anybody who's getting a new computer right this minute for actual work related things should probably not get one of the Silicon Macs. But there's a lot of options, so there's some really powerful Macs out there that can do even way more than this still. So that's pretty cool. The preferences, let's see, under general, where I was going to look at the performance meter here. So the processing threads, you can see where it says here, automatic. I have it set to the high, which is for high performance cores. But you can do automatic and have it kind of ramp up as needed. I think I had this set to high for a demonstration I was doing. Let's see if I lose streaming and stuff. So that just switches down to 4 for now because of the size of the project. The other thing that is pretty cool, I mean, I've been used to running at 128 or 256 for the buffer size when I'm doing MIDI performance, and that seems to be pretty, it's like I can perform okay, and not the latency isn't bothering me too much. Right now you can see the latency is because of my routing for you to hear what I'm doing. Without the Zoom audio device, which I'm borrowing for the stream, this would be down closer to like 8 or 10 or 12 milliseconds. But I could go, I've run whole days with big sessions at 32 and never heard a single click or a pop. And that's with like just a class compliant audio interface, USB interface that has no special drivers. And so that I've never been able to do with any computer older than a couple years, because the class compliance stuff without special drivers is just at the mercy of OS 10, and running it at the buffer size of 32 would just crash and burn every time. And so this computer can handle all of that without even like blinking. I mean, it literally doesn't even like seem to affect performance whatsoever. At least the visual parts of it and the auditory parts of it. I'm not hearing anything. I can still do just as snappy of screen changes and changing all of the plugins, all that stuff just pops up, and no matter what, even at the smallest settings. So that's not what goes first when you're having performance issues. Typically what happens is your threads all just pile up because it has to do way more. And then a session that may normally take like 4 threads is going to take 8 threads. And so you do run out of power faster. And then you have the same results with that as you would have with the 4 or with the old processors kind of being filled up. You just run out of power. It starts saying it can't do it anymore. You do have some sound, potential sound glitches and things, but it usually tells you that you've run out of power when you finally do. The pricing on this is incredible. So I was expecting it to not be able to do quite as much as it does. I'm a teacher, so I got a very small educational discount, but I think I spent between $600 and $700 on this, which the laptop I have, the Mac Pro, which is the 13-inch, came when it was fully loaded like 2.5 years ago, was like close to $3,000, and this thing blows that out of the water for everything, graphics, music, and to have it be between $600 and $700. Now, granted, you don't get a screen with that or a mouse and a keyboard. It's literally just the box. That's still amazingly cheap for all the power. And so I think the iMacs, they're going to come with obviously the screen and all the other parts that come with the all-in-one. But I mean, we're still going to be looking at probably a more affordable computer in many ways, with a lot of power. And then what they can do after that with, any bigger computer they want to put together that has like way more of all of this. But I don't expect even the iMac to have like tons more RAM because it's not using RAM the same way as it was before. Expect it to have a better hard drive has great read and write speeds and enough memory to make the architecture work. But I mean, we're not going to need like terabytes of RAM with this new way it's working, I don't think. Yeah, so another comment about the 32-bit I/O buffer with no issues, M1 mini 8 gig RAM. That's me. It's just like mine too. So it's really cool. Any other specific questions that you're looking to have answered while you're here? Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm touching it right there. It's been on for a little while now because I was setting up for this. I'm live streaming. I've got, the session, I haven't really done much with it, but it has a lot loaded up. But I've been running, when I was doing my bigger tests where I was maxing the thing out, I still have never, ever heard the fan on this. I don't even know what the fan sounds like. Never made a sound. I've never felt it and had been warm. My old Mac Mini was always hot and had a fan running. I mean, it's just, that's amazing that we have computers that now, it seemed like we were always going to have to go up and up and up with that. Don't tell anybody, I've got a Windows computer under here too for my immersive video. That's because none of the Macs are great for doing like Oculus stuff and VR and 360 audio video. They're just not good at it yet. So I've got this like 20 core with a water cooled CPU graphics card, and this thing pumps out heat when it's on like nobody's business. And dang, it's like I'm excited for what Apple has decided to do with this, because if it trickles down into other areas, then maybe we can actually learn some more from this and be more efficient. Well, I'm not really the right person probably to ask about RAM differences, but I do know that the RAM that they're using in here is like the really good quality stuff. And there are differences between RAM. They're not all made equal. They're different speed, different bandwidth things where how much can go in and out. And then these ones are integrated into the new chip, and so they're actually positioned and designed differently than you would have previously, where you could have like your RAM on the motherboard, and you could put in new ones or take new ones out. This is not like that. Once I committed to this one, I mean it's that one forever now. So that is something that gives it more power because it's designed perfectly inside the system. But I mean, we've gone even further away from the ability to ever customize these things. We're at the mercy of what they design. That's a good question about how many channels, because everything's a little bit different. I mean, I do mostly virtual instruments, and with audio stuff, I can run as fast as my hard drives are, and you can actually split audio across hard drives with Logic. So, I mean, if you ran out of like the ability to read from your disk, you could put half your session on a different drive, and then they could be using the speed of multiple drives to do this. So, I think with this, I mean, I could probably, with frozen tracks, if we wanted to talk about freezing and actually going down that route, I mean, we could probably max out Logic in some ways. But active tracks with no freezing, I think with some memory hungry ones, like I was doing some alchemy tests, it was like hundreds. So, I mean, you could get quite a bit on here with it. Scott, are you saying 8 gig of RAM is probably like 32? 32 what? Well, if you're saying it's like 32 gigs of RAM on a different system, I would say it probably is kind of like that. Um, because it's kind of like the equivalent where now you could get like a computer with 64 gigs of RAM, and it would run. Yeah, so that's kind of what I thought you meant. And I would say so. I would say it's about the equivalent performance that I'm getting out of my computer with 32. Um, Probably. The other thing I'm doing very carefully, and let me load this up real quick. This right here, it's more full than I want it to be. I need to get rid of some stuff. I've got 65 gigabytes available right now. I'm not going to go any smaller than that because it's using the hard drive so much as like a virtual memory thing. I'm keeping this at above 50 at any one time. I'm never going to go below that because I imagine it's really going to slow it down if you only have the certain amount of RAM and you have a full hard drive. So I definitely would recommend keeping the system drive at least this much space on it, if not more. Okay, so someone is saying all plugs work with Rosetta. I'll try it out. I'm curious to see what's different in it, but that'll be a video I make probably coming up because I do think that it's worth knowing the performance capabilities in the Rosetta mode, or just how much. It's like you could open up a project in one and open it in the other and see exactly what the performance meter is different. Okay, cool. Yeah, so right now, I guess in summary, we're really just waiting to see when the third party groups are all going to get on board. and what that's going to take. We're going to be seeing any updates that come from Big Sur and how that changes things. We're going to be, hopefully, not too far from now, getting another Logic update. In the past, it's usually between February and June when Logic does their big updates. Now, we just kind of did a bigger one when this was all done, but they didn't add a bunch of stuff. So our bigger features should be coming a little bit later on. So we're on 10.6.1 right now. So, but the 10.6 really was just to get it onto the universal format and did a lot of under the hood things. And the 0.1 was a bunch of bug fixes, but we haven't had any like new features since last year when they did the live looping and all of that stuff. So we're hopefully going to get the rest of the plugins up to the new interfaces. We still have a number of them which don't really mix with what we're doing here. I mean, we still have imaging like the stereo spread style, which is the old school style right there. And so we want to get a lot of the rest of these updated and more functional possibly. And maybe some more instruments or updated instruments, new drummers. Apple's weird. It's like they picked a bunch of styles of music for the drummer, but they still have left a lot of styles out. And so I'm excited if they add like metal or some other styles that it would be really beneficial to hear in the drummer. And so, I think that there's room for improvement still that we could do with the updates. Some of the traditional things that have been wrong with Logic, I think we should all realize that they're just never going to change them at this point. I mean, they've had lots of opportunities to, and they haven't. And I don't think they want to start over with the software. So we probably should just embrace some of those quirks. But new content would be cool, and better sounding, flex pitch, and that has improved over the past few years since they released it. And I think that with more power like this comes the ability to do more with some of these plugins and features. Couple more questions. One was about the bigger internal SSD will give these Macs a longer life. I think so. I do, because what's going to happen is if you don't have a big one and if you just let a little bit of room open, it's going to use the heck out of that small amount, and I think it's going to be detrimental. So I would just plan on. I went out and bought like 3 or 4 more SSD drives to put everything on and keep it off the main drive. I'm going to be transferring. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to transfer the Logic sounds to an external SSD. Those are small fish compared to some of my other libraries, so it's going to be fine on an external drive. But I think maybe, I don't know about the speed. I think the issue is going to be if you fill it up or not. So I think a bigger one internal would probably run just as fast as a smaller one, as long as neither one of them is full. Someone asked how I learned all of my environmental Logic tricks. That just comes from me using Logic when the environment was the only way to do most of those things. I know I look like I'm only 25, right? But that's not the truth. Let's see. Yeah, lo-fi jazz, any kind of jazz would be cool for the drummer. So the hip hop that we have in Logic, I think they need to call some cooler people to help program some of those, because some of them don't sound that great in terms of style. Some country styles would be amazing, although country right now is like some of the rock and roll styles that we have. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, tons of jazz could be interesting. Pedal steel and a Led Zeppelin. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, everybody's got like the stuff on their wish list. My preferred expansion to Logic is the Composer Cloud from East West. I think the Composer Cloud is an amazing deal. Once a year, I pay a couple $100, and they release new stuff, and I get it. They've got the Beatles library, which is one of my favorites. But they've got so many great sounds, orchestral, non-orchestral. They've got great drums that I use with the drummer track. They've got guitar stuff that is really cool. And that fills in all the stuff that I don't get in Logic itself. The one thing you can't add, and the comment was you can add third-party stuff to the drummer, though. It's harder. The functionality I like about the drummer, and I'll show you real quick why this is kind of my thing that I like. Let me delete all these tracks. So say I'm going to work on a new song, and I almost always kind of do a similar arrangement. So I'm going to just dump all the stuff in the arrangement here. Just so you can see what I'm doing. So I make my arrangement first, and then I add the drummer track, and it drops in all of the different patterns in the actual style of those different parts of the song. So this is like a verse pattern, a chorus pattern, a bridge pattern, and you can drag and drop these and move them around however you want. And then if I change like drummers, it's going to do the same thing with all of those styles. So for songwriting, I could say, you know what, I want to do like a typical contemporary ballad style with the verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. And I can drop that all in the arrangement, have it throw in a drummer with that style, start writing the song, and then fine tune the drums and the patterns later on. And so that you can't really do as easily with third-party drum patterns. So I couldn't say, like, in this situation, I couldn't say, give me a country tune, or, give me, a jazz standard type style. Give me like a Frank Sinatra type thing. I mean, that just doesn't exist. I couldn't say do a metal version of this. And so that's what we're looking for in terms of an expansion of the drummer more than anything. It's just more styles that work exactly within the system that's here. Well, I think I'm going to wrap up here in a second. How long have we been going? I don't even know. But about 43 minutes. Any last questions? I did get a held comment for everyone's enjoyment that says, dolphins can eat 120 medium Chick-fil-A fries. So appreciative to learn that. East-West Quantum Leap is what EWQL stands for. If you go to soundsonline.com, that's the site that's their website. It used to be East-West and Quantum Leap, and then they merged. But looks like no other questions. So thanks everybody for joining. And if you're interested in more of these live streams, I'm thinking about doing them more often, just covering a variety of topics. I think live streaming is going to be a little bit more my speed in 2021 instead of doing videos that I pre-record and edit and stuff, because I think this is a little bit perhaps more hands-on. But come back. I'll be posting up information about it. Thanks for watching. And I'm going to pull the plug on this. So see you later. Thanks everybody for watching.